Welcome, guys, to another live session. Oscar from StressFit. Thank you, guys, for tuning in to another powerful conversation on the law of vibration, part two. Part one was a very empowering session. I think we shared a lot of insights and gained some valuable knowledge on just vibration when it comes to not only attracting what you want in your life through applying the law of vibration, but also healing the body and truly understanding how your vibe is not only influencing your well-being but the others around you. Welcome, Marielle, and welcome everyone else to the chat today. So today we'll touch up on everything we learned last week, and then we've got some really powerful subjects to kind of touch up on as well, and that'll conclude our session. And thank you guys for being patient and just allowing me to deal with these technical difficulties while I sorted that out. So welcome, Sylvia. Thank you for tuning in. So the last session, we really went deep into what reality is beyond our physical senses. We understood that through the model of quantum physics, that everything is just vibration, and we, as the observers, consciousness, have this interdependence, interconnection. Like we have this dance with matter, right? Consciousness and matter are interdependent in this experience, meaning that through observation, we are influencing this reality, this probability field of potential, because that's what it is. It's all energy. Everything's energy. And when we observe it, it condenses from this energetic state, superposition, as they say in quantum physics, of atoms, to this one condensed reality we call our experience. And this is all happening. And it's a very marvelous, mind-blowing, mind-blowing interaction between particles and consciousness. Now, particles have two different states. They are in a state of matter, or they're in a state of wave or energy, right? And that's why they call it the collapse of the wave function, because we as observers are measuring reality and collapsing it into the one condensed reality. And this is all happening at quantum speed. So we don't really understand what's going on because we're moving at a certain speed through space and time, but it's all happening through these experiments. And then we went into some experiments. We learned about why and how they came up with that conclusion, which is great. And then, just to touch up on applying vibration into our life, a lot of us, when we want to manifest, we want to create, we want to, really attract abundance into our lifestyle, we focus on what we don't have. I want this, I want that. And when we're craving and we're wanting things, it's coming from a place of lack because we don't have it. So if we want success, and this is a really, I've touched up on it, but it's a very important one to really truly understand and apply, because we all crave. Everyone craves on some level, some desire, pleasure, experience, event, goal, unless you're a monk and you live in complete detachment, which is amazing if you can do that. But for most of us, it's very difficult. Let's face it. So whenever we're craving something, or whenever you're earning or wanting more, generally it's coming from not having enough, right? And it doesn't work like that, because the principles of the universe teach us that when we are projecting, the greater intelligence, whatever you want to call it, is receiving that energy, and then that energy is coming back to you. So people that are really down and suffering and depressed, that's the energy that's going out. People that always believe, bad things happen to me. I can't believe bad things happen to me. Bad things are always happening to them. But then when good people that are just living life, that want to create, right, that don't have any sort of psychological condition, but they're just acting from a place of lack. I wish I had more money. I wish I had a relationship. I crave. And that is validating the lack of wholeness. That is validating the emptiness. That's validating the lack of connection, the lack of abundance, the lack of success, the lack of joy in your heart. Because whenever we want, we don't have. So when we act from a place of whole, I am success, I am love, I am abundance, I am grateful, I am whatever it is, whatever feeling that we're cultivating, then you don't need anything. You don't want anything, because you're already in that space. And then the energy that you're projecting is a lot more powerful, right? Is a lot more powerful because think about it. You've gone from wanting something to now embodying something. So once you can embody your success, you can embody your joy, you can embody your abundance, you can embody your completeness, and you actually feel it. You feel it from head to toe. You feel it in your heart. Then you're acting from a place as if you're already there. You're moving into a space which you want to attract, but you're already there. So when you're already there, you don't like the most important thing to understand is whenever we want something that's objective and that's materialistic, you want an experience, you want a perfect partner, you want a business, successful business, whatever it is, beyond that experience, event, or person is a feeling that we're chasing. Because if you ask someone, okay, if someone asks you, so what do you want from the future? What would you like to create? I want a successful business. I want, my dream house. I want a car. And it's like, why? Why do you want those things? Why do you want a partner? Why do you want this? Why do you want? Because it's going to give me a sense of freedom. It's going to give me a sense of completeness, a sense of success. So the point is, there's always this feeling that is attached to all these objects we're chasing, because we are vibration at our most deepest fundamental level. We are energy. So always chasing this feeling. So bringing that back into our own vibration, when we want to truly create, connect, and manifest like mavericks, we have to feel it and act from a place of wholeness. So ask yourself, what is it that you truly desire from the future? And if you're perfectly content, that's fine. If you're content, you're content, and you don't need anything, you don't want anything. That's a great space to be in, But for many of us, for some of us, we want to create experiences. We want to manufacture certain moments. We want to create certain events, whatever it is. So if you want to create, then what's the feeling that you're chasing? Is it freedom? Is it peacefulness? Is it success? Is it abundance? Is it gratitude? What is it? And once you discover what that feeling is, you got to wake up in the morning and act like if you're already there. So if I want to be successful, if I want to have at the moment, for me personally, I'm really into my cryptocurrency and I want a really expanded portfolio. And I'm just visualizing my portfolio getting bigger, bigger, and bigger. And it's like, why do I want that? Because I want to feel a sense of success. But instead of chasing these numbers, which is just electronic numbers, I've got to start feeling that success as if, I wake up one day and my portfolio has gone through the roof and I've got these crazy numbers, mathematics in my account. I've got to feel that already. So if I can feel that, I can cut my energy, my electromagnetic energy can come into alignment with that future. Thanks, Stefan. With that future, it can come into alignment. So then I'm already there. So once I'm already there, it doesn't matter if that happens or not, because I'm already embodying that feeling. So if you want a relationship and you want a perfect partner, you got to wake up in the morning like, okay, if I had a perfect partner in a relationship, how would I feel? I'd feel happy. I'd feel abundant. Well, you got to act like if you're already there. And the truth is, you can't really expect anyone to make you feel that way, because unless you're already abundant and you're whole, you can't really share that with anyone else. And we all know that codependency is very unhealthy, and you really need to be in a really good place within yourself to share that with a significant other. So you guys get it. The point is, when it comes to vibration, and it's always a great subject to validate, is whatever you want, whatever you desire, whatever you crave, find out what that feeling is that's attached to it, and then embody that feeling and make it a practice to wake up every morning, go to bed every night, just being there in that place. And then the environment will start to change, because as consciousness, you can collapse the wave function through the act of measurement and observation. So if you're observing a reality and in your mind you've got this vision, but you're actually embodying it, then the world around you will start to change, believe it or not, because this world, as solid as it may seem in this dimension, is actually very energetic and fluid. But because we're in 3D reality, from point A to point B, it takes time. When you go into your dream state, you never walk around and think, Jesus, I've been here for ages. What's the time? You don't, I guarantee you, because Time doesn't exist in the next reality, in the astral realm, next dimension, whatever you want to call it. From point A to point B, it's instant. Instant. That's why when you have a lucid dream, there's instant manifestations. You're going from one place to the next place to the next place, and then you're just shape shifting into, you're collapsing all these different realities. And we wake up and we only remember fragments of that. But anyone that has astral traveled or has experienced lucid reality, it's collapsed. Boom, boom, boom. You're just moving through these portals of time. Because in this reality, we move through space to experience time, meaning from point A to point B, there's space. And we've got to move through that space because sorry, we've got to move through that space because depending on how fast we move through that space, it depends on how much time it takes. But in the innerverse, when we go within that reality, we move through time to experience space. So time is suspended. So now we're moving through time like that movie, and I've mentioned this before, Interstellar, and space is collapsing. Try get your mind around that. That when I really try to meditate on that, it blew a gasket in my brain because that's just mind blowing. You're moving through time to experience space. Here we're moving through space to experience time. You got to really think about that because it took me a long time to truly understand that. And maybe you guys will be quicker than me, but when you truly get that insight, it's mind blowing what the next reality is, where we go when we dream. And people that just believe, oh, dreams are dreams. No, dreams are not just dreams. I'm sorry. Dreams are made out of mass and energy. They're made out of mass and energy. They exist in some level of creation, right? Just it's not in your brain where you can't scan someone's brain and go, okay, well, that's where a thought is. That's where the dream is. No, it doesn't work like that, in my personal opinion. I think it's all astral. It's all energetic. It's this, it's this mind-blowing experience that we're having. We just don't have any conscious awareness to what's going on, right? Because that's the way it's designed by the great architect, if you like. But bringing that back into creating this reality, it may take a little bit of time to create in this reality, but if you stay true to the embodiment of what you truly want to manifest through completely absorbing yourself in a frequency that brings you fulfillment, your inner state will start to reflect your outer state. So now your outer state has to reflect your inner state, as above, so below, as the saying goes. And slowly it'll start to change. It'll start to mold and shape to what you're projecting, right? And there's so many different factors to this because now you go to your emotional guidance system, right? Emotions are a manifestation of energy through this system that we have as a being of light, right? What do you feed yourself emotionally? This is a big one, your emotional diet. We have a nutritional diet, but what are you feeding yourself emotionally? Now, if you're not really taking control over that and you're just dictated through your environment, your experiences, people, then, you're this emotional yo-yo going up and down. 1 minute you're sad and then, you're waiting for something to make you happy. Then 1 minute you're happy, then inevitably something's going to make you sad. And we're just kind of going through the motions. And for people that don't really have any sense of self-awareness to this, they can experience a lot of sadness, which then programs them on a neurological level, on a biological level, and now they're more prone to more sadness and they're craving more sadness because the body is now got all these receptor sites that are only conditioned to sadness chemicals, right? But once you take control over that and you start to understand, well, I can be in charge of my emotional diet. I can start to feed myself emotionally what I want. So you make the space and you do it, but people aren't teaching this. It sounds absurd to a very conditioned mind, but when you truly understand the physics of this and the level of creativity, you just sitting there in your meditation practice, and don't even call it meditation. You can just sit there silently and go within and start to change your frequency just by feeding yourself self-love, gratitude. We know these words, but they're just energy. It's just vibration. These are just concepts. They mean nothing until you go within and you just start to feel, abundance. And that means there's no wanting, there's no craving, there's no earning, there's no looking forward to tomorrow. You are in your space in complete, you've immersed yourself in just your consciousness and you're starting to expand. You do this every single day for 20 minutes and you watch after a couple of months what starts to collapse. How you start to collapse now reality to reflect what you're practicing. Even before you wake up in the morning, just to sit there in bed for 10 minutes and just immerse yourself in this golden light, and just really give your body the emotions of fulfillment, independent to what's happening outside of you. This is now being creative with your energy, and now you're not dictated by the law of cause and effect through your environment, because there's always a cause affecting an internal state. You're starting to now you're causing an effect now. You're causing effect because you're changing your internal state, and you're thinking greater than your environment, and your environment starts to change slowly. And there are so many stories of these people that have just come from rugs to riches, all these billionaires, millionaires that are just coming up, and they're just using their energy, changing their energy. But it's not about money. It's about that will come. That's a byproduct of being successful within yourself. The aim is to grow within you, grow in love, grow in abundance, grow in success. And then a byproduct will be freedom. And your your intuition will work out how to achieve financial freedom from that. But that shouldn't be the focus. The focus should be to grow in love. So going back to that, again, it's so strong, the vibration, and we repeat what we don't learn, that when you're not in check of your emotions and how you feel, because everyone's going to get triggered. That's just life. I get triggered all the time. I got triggered last night, but I just went into my breathing, and I just neutralized it, and I just neutralized it, because I knew that was a window of growth, because there was this unsettled energy coming within me. The narrative was starting to play out in my ego mind, and my ego was taking this unsettled energy and identifying with it and thinking, oh, how could they say this to me? Regardless of what happened, the point is that when you get triggered, there's always this unsettled energy. Then the narrative comes out, and once they intertwine, then that's going to be a problem, because then you can be very highly unconscious, and that, if you don't know how to control that energy, then that's going to get projected into your environment, and it's really, it's really no benefit for anyone. And this is the thing, but when we start to release negative energy, right, and we start to project negative energy, that energy is going to find you again, because you will repeat what you don't vibrationally conquer. Right? It'll find you again. There'll be another trigger, because it's trying to expose you. Life is trying to give you what you need. So if life is giving you the same experience, or if over and over again, in different time lapse, in different time periods or points, then it's trying to teach you, hey, Oscar, you've got to learn this. You've got to learn how to compose yourself when people are throwing negative energy at you. You've got to learn how to compose yourself when someone's not happy, or when someone's being passive aggressive towards you, whatever it is, whatever you guys are going through, and you feel like, okay, why is this happening to me? Well, life is trying to expose you to a part of yourself you need to be free. Well, life is trying to show you a part of yourself where you're not extraordinary, and you need to understand that and look at that as an opportunity for growth. Because if you don't, then that vibration is still going to be within you. That negativity, that ability, that pain body to take over you, it stays there, because you haven't conquered it. So when we're constantly throwing out negative energy, it will come back to us. And I watched this podcast the other day, and they've done research studies in this. When you vocalize negativity, it's 10 times as worse as feeling it internally. So when you feel negative about something, oh, I don't have enough, I'm not this, I'm not that, whatever it is, whatever, egotistic thought that is trying to haunt you, when you vocalize it, like, I'm stupid, I can't believe I did that, and I'm an idiot, or, sometimes we just do things and we vocalize it, or we're complaining, or whatever it is, it's 10 times as worse, because now that not only do those words go out into this spiritual realm, which we have no idea exists, but they go into your subconscious mind, and they start wiring your brain, and they start, creating neural networks, and believe it or not, they become a part of your personality, right? Don't vocalize your negativity. If you want to complain, figure out a way to have a healthy perspective when you express that, right? Because that's going to give you, that's a level of emotional intelligence, but it also gives you a very, very high degree of self-awareness to not vocalize your negativity. If you need to say something to someone, say it to them with grace. You can get your point across by having a good tone and articulating yourself, right? like a maverick, just articulating yourself and still get your point across. Yelling and throwing a tantrum, a adult tantrum, it's just your trauma surfacing. And then once you throw it and you throw that vibration, that shitty energy into your field, it's going to come back. It'll come back to you. I guarantee you, maybe not in that moment, but it'll come back next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And that's why when you're in a relationship and you start arguing, you don't stop arguing. It happens all the time. Anyone that has experienced that, once the arguing starts, it is so difficult to break that pattern because that energy keeps coming back. And if you don't know how to hold space for one another, if you guys aren't conscious enough in your relationship to hold space for one another, understand where the argument is coming from, understand where the unsettled energy is coming from, understand where the trauma is surfacing from, and really truly holding space, then 9 times out of 10, the relationship is going to fail or it's going to be very toxic. So the point is that be very aware when you feel low vibrations and you need to release that. Just take time, feel it. Because once you can feel it in your body and breathe it, you'll get to a point where you enjoy it. You'll be like, oh my God, I've been triggered. Thank you. Thank you. Because now I can actually grow from this. So you just sit there and you just laugh at it and going, wow, I've got a lot of healing to do. And when you're authentic and you're vulnerable and you're honest, man, that's a level of, that is such a guru level, and some people might not understand it, but it is, because now you've detached yourself from the currents of energy moving through your body. That's complete. You're in a complete state of presence. You're the observer, observing the shitty energy you're feeling, the turbulence happening within you, and you're not identified with it. You're just sitting there aware of it, going, okay, well, I've been triggered. I'm just sitting here. I feel really pissed off. I want to yell at you, but I'm not going to. I am not going to yell at you, even though I feel like really screaming. I'm not going to. And you just sit there. And after a while, you're going to start feeling empowered. I promise you. You'll feel empowered because now you have broken the feedback loop that normally governs these shitty moods. And now you've started to strengthen your self-awareness, right? Your self-awareness is getting stronger. Your consciousness is expanding. And now over time, you'll become really good at this. And this is where you start to truly transform, right? This is where you start to raise your energy, because now you're conquering all these vibrations, and now new experiences are coming your way because you don't have to go through these. You're shifting through these old paradigms, because we're all here to evolve. That's it. This is a game of evolution. We evolve the most through silence. Okay, it's true. But we also evolve and accelerate our growth through conquering energy. It's a game of energy. So when you're feeling low, when you're feeling negative, when you're feeling shitty, and these experiences are coming to you and you're staying calm and you're breathing and you're still in this state of abundance and you're feeling magnetized and you just got this great attitude about, just feeling angry, but you don't let that out. That's massive, massive transformation there. Massive. Because when you feel inconvenienced and you still have grace and you're still at the service of others, well, that's that's like a Jedi monk mindset. Because when we feel inconvenienced, we should really, that's when you grow. That's when you're truly tested. If someone shitty is being presented in front of you, whether they've cut a line, whether they're yelling at you at the supermarket, whatever it is, life is giving you that experience to teach you something. And if you can stay calm and not react and lower your vibration and have this, shitty energy being projected, then you've conquered that. That's another tick. You've conquered that, and you're ready for the next step of evolution. And it's a game of energy. It's all about vibrating in love. The more we can vibrate in love, the more dimensions we can access. And that may be hard to understand from this level of mindset, but in the next life, we'll have more access to creative expressions of our energy if we can vibrate more in love. Because you're not going to be able to access the heavenly realms and domains when you're living in a state of fear. When you're living in a state of fear. Now, not to get too deep, there's so many different layers to this. I do believe on some level that, look, when we do transcend, the personality Oscar is only unique to this domain, and I will transcend as not Oscar, but just as spirit. But I do believe that there's this karmic blueprint that we take on from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. Not to get too deep and spiritual, I do believe on some level there is. That's why two people, two twins can be born with the same genes, but they choose two completely different lifestyles. So what attracts someone to one thing? What attracts someone to another thing? And I think it's the karmic blueprint that we take from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. So there's so many different layers to creation, but I know on some layer we have to conquer energy. And that's why we keep coming back lifetime after lifetime to lifetime to understand that love is the ultimate frequency. And when you're not vibrating in love, and you've got too much fear and you're hurting people and you're doing this and you're doing all these horrible things, I think it's the eternal search of enlightenment. These energies will keep coming back until they balance each other out, maybe through karmic cycles or maybe through just the balance of life. Marielle says you have to be aware that your ego and not your true self. Absolutely, absolutely. There's a gap when we get triggered before our nervous system tilts, right? Because that's what happens. Like a baby, when a baby starts to cry, over time, it'll learn how to regulate its nervous system so it doesn't cry all the time. And same with us, our nervous system tilts. We're not crying. Maybe we're getting angry. Some of us are crying. Some of us are freaking out, whatever it is. If we can stop, if we can, and that's what meditation does, it creates more and more space between the physiological response and our awareness. If we can sense the nervous system tilting, and before it tilts and starts to physiologically, release all these stress hormones, if we can, in that gap, if we can just breathe it out and go, okay, I'm about to feel a lot of, anger or stressful energy. I just got to breathe this out. If the conscious awareness quickly comes into that equation before it happens, that's it. You've got control over that. You've broken the feedback loop. And this is where you start to truly grow your awareness. When you start to break the feedback loops before they start to govern these physiological responses in the body, because now you're hijacking the autonomic nervous system for your conscious awareness, and you're not a victim of these subconscious mechanisms. You're in control. Yvonne says, thank you, Oscar. So relevant to me at the moment. The bullies are very confused with this response. It becomes entertaining to see them flummoxed. I don't even know what that word is. That's a new word to learn. Flummoxed. They have the issue of retain my essence. You just described myself. I'm going to say completely correct. Same parent. Excellent, Yvonne. I call this divine intervention, or synchronicity. So whatever you've been experiencing, I'm just a conduit, kind of just reflecting that back like a mirror. So you're exactly where you're meant to be. So thank you for sharing that with us. And it does take, there's a saying, while the fools laugh, the wise man understands. So in life, yeah, we will be tested. There are going to be work environments or, school environments, whatever it is, whatever environment that you're in. There will be moments and experiences in life where we have to go against the grain. And sometimes, 90% of people might not have your mindset, and you can feel a lot of negative energy coming towards you. And that's when you have to stay strong and you have to really be the beacon of light, because they are all there for a purpose, to learn a lesson, and you're that lesson. And sometimes it's the angels and it's the really good souls that have to absorb all this negative energy because the others can't do it. So even though you're there to teach them a powerful lesson, if they don't get it, they don't get it. They'll keep coming back. They'll keep going through whatever they need to go through, but don't take it so personally, right? Because when we take things personally, we start to lower our vibration. And if they don't have the capacity to understand, it goes back to the great story of Jesus, right? Forgive them, Father, for they do not know. They don't have the capacity to understand. They don't have the capacity to understand the unison between each and every one of us. They don't have the capacity to understand that love is the most ultimate frequency, the most ultimate force in reality. They don't have the capacity to understand compassion. They don't have the capacity to understand selflessness, being unified, helping each other. They don't have the capacity. So if anything, we have to show compassion in experiences like that, as hard as it gets. And your higher self is looking down at you and going, you know what, Yvonne, you're an absolute superstar for doing that. And we're so proud of you. And for that, your spirits are going to look, they've got your back. And these are moments where we really triumph and empower, because even though we wanted to shut down and even though we felt our vibration lowering, we've conjured the spirit through the higher force to not do that, to actually understand this situation for what it truly is for emotional intelligence, self awareness, and we still reclaimed our truth. And we walked away without reacting, retaliating, throwing any sort of negative energy. And the valuable lesson that they're going to learn. And this goes back to this story about the Buddha. And I've mentioned this story once or twice, but it's a really good story to tell that Yvonne's just reminded me of. And for some of you guys have heard this story, but I'm going to say it again. So we all know the story of Buddha in a Siddhartha, Guatemala, his name was. But to everyone else, he was known as Buddha, which means the awakened one. And throughout his journey, you know, he had come to a point where he had a lot of disciples. He had a lot of disciples, a lot of people following him. People understood that he was speaking a truth that would elevate their consciousness, and they gravitated towards that. So one day he was meditating with all his disciples, peacefully meditating, and then there was this one person that didn't like him, just hated him for everything he represented, everything he stood. This one person's ego could not understand what was happening. And because he had all these followers and disciples and everyone was listening to him and he's speaking his truth in a very humble, graceful way, this didn't sit well with him. So through his hate and jealousy and all these lower vibrations he was feeling, one day he confronted Buddha while he was meditating, just shook him. And Buddha come out of his meditation, looked up at this bully, and this bully just started giving him all this negative energy. You think you're this, you think you're that, you've got all these disciples, you're nothing, and blah, blah, blah. And through this anger, all these disciples got up, and Buddha said, no, please, please leave it. And he just stayed very calm. And this bully kept on going and going. He wanted a reaction, but Buddha wasn't giving a reaction. So this made him even more furious, because we know that when people are silent, that we have to deal with our own toxic energy, and that can infuriate us even more for a certain amount of time. So he got more angry and kept on saying this and swearing and blah, 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 and just kept on giving it all this crap. I hate you. I can't, whatever he said. It was just really nasty. And then Buddha just stayed still, didn't say anything, stayed calm. And it got to a point he had nothing else to give him, because he had exerted all his energy, and it was over 10 minutes, for example. He had nothing. So he spat on Buddha. Buddha just looked at him, just, yep. And then all his disciples got up, and he told his disciples, please just leave it, just sit down and leave it. And he obviously wasn't going to hit Buddha, because he had 30, 40, 50 disciples there. So once he had nothing else to give him, he walked away. He walked away frantically. And, that evening he went home and he was walking up and down his bedroom, walking up and down, going crazy, because he couldn't understand what just happened. He was waiting for a reaction. He was waiting for something, but nothing happened. So now he had to deal with all these negative energy. He had all these negative energy, all this shitty energy he had to deal with. Cut a long story short, 2 weeks later, he came and apologized to Buddha, and he became one of his best disciples. This is a very powerful story. This is a very powerful story that we can all learn a valuable lesson from, and a valuable insight, that in life, when we react, when we entangle ourselves, when we really feel overwhelmed at certain points, sometimes it's better not to say anything and just stay there calmly and let that other person learn their lesson, because silence is a very powerful response. And B, sometimes people will learn. People learn better when you don't say anything and you let them have that energy, because they're the ones that created it. They're the ones that spat it out. You didn't react. And now they've got to go home and deal with that, because as soon as you react, they can justify their energy. How many people can relate? They can be like, well, that's why, because, so imagine Buddha reacted and he said, oh, how dare you say this, blah, 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 blah. He'd go back and go, that's why I hate him. He thinks he's like, you know what I mean? Be two egos. And this disciple who ended up being a disciple, he wouldn't have learned anything. And it's same in our relationships. Sometimes when we react in certain situations, and we try and explain it through our words or our anger, and we get really angry. Sometimes it's not as powerful as saying nothing at all, because now the person or people, they got to have to sit there and deal with their own shitty energy that they've released. And that is a powerful lesson for them, whether they have the self-awareness to truly process that or not. But you've done your job by just sitting there in the light of your own being, protected by your own essence and your own spirits, right? Because there are unseen forces in this reality that are always there. if you believe it or not. Achu says, once you've matured, you realize silence is more powerful than proving a point. Absolutely. Absolutely. I do 100% agree with you, Achu. And there's a famous Bruce Lee saying, a famous Bruce Lee quote that goes, the most silent person in the room is the most powerful. You know, too often people have itchy mouths. They just need to talk. They need to talk. They need to talk. It's okay to talk about meaningful things, right? But meaningless things of drama and this, because people can't, the people that need to talk the most about just drama and just meaningless things that really don't raise your vibration, they can't stop. It's a great distraction for them not to deal with their anxiety, because God forbid they had to be silent and deal with what is happening in here, because there's just too much turbulence and we don't know how to deal with that. So we have different coping mechanisms. One coping mechanism is just talking drama, always just moving around, being stimulated on the phone, doing this, doing that, gambling, shopping, sex, drugs, alcohol. It's just distraction from escaping what's happening in here. And for everyone on this app, I assume that meditates, that goes within, it's a very powerful thing to face your shit, right? Because once you start facing all the shit that you've been carrying, and you start to liberate it by breathing through presence awareness, body awareness, breath work, yoga, chant, whatever it is, whatever that's working for you, you start to break through all the emotional barriers that are holding you back, and you start to connect with your truth. And when you truly discover that truth, that's when you love meditation, you love breath work, because there's no better place to be than that inner sanctuary of your soul, the seat of the soul. That's where that raindrop merges with the ocean. There is no separation anymore. There's only this oneness, connection, awareness of all that is. Yvonne says, you've actually touched me on something there that has actually occurred with one of my bully groups, one of the bully group. She finally could not cope with partaking and being an onlooker as to the behavior shown towards me of I'm having to raise the situation through grievance. But this girl, independently without speaking to me, has reported the behavior to a higher manager and will now be a witness complete turnaround. Absolutely, Yvonne. So there you go. And I think there's always a higher purpose for everything, whether we learn that lesson now or later. If you just remain to your truth and you don't get involved and you just stay in your light and you don't react, and you just stay in your light and you don't react, and you just believe and you stay connected to your truth, a higher divine order will start to take place. It has to. It has to. It has to. For all the corruption, darkness, evil in the world, there's equal light, angels, positivity, whatever that dualistic, polarization between good and evil, night and day. There are these forces in our world that are these unseen forces, whether you're aware of it or not. They are there. So I do believe that by being in your light, there's always going to be light that will attract and help kind of create this higher order. Stefan says, I have noticed that banks are bullies. They don't care about society. Yeah, that's right. Banks, it is a very it is the banks, ATO. I think the tax office, they are the biggest bullies. They're gangsters, man. You can't escape the tax. You can't escape the ATO. Going back to your question, Stefan, yeah, I do experience a lot of nasty customers at work, and over time, you just have to realize that, that's if people are miserable, they're going to give you misery. It's just the way it is. You can't give what you don't possess. I can't give you money if I don't have it. I can't give you love if I don't have it. How can I give you love? If I feel shit every day and I feel misery and I feel crap, how can I give you love? I can't, because I can't even give it to myself. So if I'm miserable, then I'm going to give you misery. If I'm abundant, I'm going to give you abundance. So you want to know how someone's truly feeling? Look at the way they express themselves. Look, observe, and then you'll know how they're feeling. Maybe not instantly, because sometimes people have a great facade, especially con artists. They can really uphold that. But over time, a leopard can only hide his spots for so long until it becomes exposed, because it's exhausting being someone you're not. It's very exhausting, and you can't, because you've got too many subconscious mechanisms that will override your conscious effect to put this illusion on like you are someone you're not, right? So that's why they say when you live with someone, their true colors comes out, right? Isn't that the truth? You think someone is this certain type of person, and you get to live with them. It's like, whoa, where did that come from? It happens, believe me, it happens. And that's right. I've been hearing that a lot. I've been hearing that a lot lately, Tanya. And it's probably because I need to learn a lesson from it. Hurt people, and it's true. And I've dealt with narcissistic personalities, and I'm sure you guys have as well. you know, when someone goes through a lot of trauma and a lot of sadness and a lot of pain and suffering, there's so many different defense mechanisms that come from that allows the psyche to deal with the pain and suffering. And it's so intricate. And some people might, develop a split personality. Some people might develop, a narcissistic personality. Some people might develop, this disconnection with life and reality. It depends on how the psyche wants to the protect its feelings from feeling like that again, right? Because if I've gone through hurt and I've really, really, really felt hurt, then I don't want to feel that again. So whenever someone comes close to me, I'm going to push them away when they get too close. If that triggers, through the law of association, a memory that is, significant to the degree that it might surface my hurt again. So that's why, some psychologists have to go back to childhood to help their clients, because a lot of the trauma is coming from childhood development that they don't understand because it's so implicit. And now they're sabotaging all their relationships and they don't know why. Whenever someone gets close to me, I'm pushing them away. Goes back to a story that I've repeated before. Is there was this one case where this lady was sabotaging every single relationship. So whenever she'd meet a guy who was a nice guy, they'd get close, and whenever it got too close, she would sabotage the relationship and she would like quit, and she would break up with him, and there was this reoccurring pattern. And these are nice guys; they weren't bad guys, and she couldn't understand it. So she went and saw a specialist, and through some work, they went deeper, deeper, and deeper. And then they dug up this memory when she was young. Her mum had taken her for a drive, a road trip throughout, her region. And then she was playing up, and her mother's like, please be quiet. And she kept on making all this sound and noise and crying. She was playing up, and her mother got so pissed off that she put on the brakes in the middle of nowhere in this road trip, kicked the little 5-year-old out, and drove off. As she obviously came back, but she drove off for a good 2 minutes to teach her a lesson. But in that 2 minutes, the little girl felt so much trauma. She felt so scared. She felt so abandoned. That what did it do? What did a couple of moments of trauma do? It changed the whole course of her life. Now, what does she have? What has she developed as a defense mechanism? That's right, a fear of abandonment. So now when someone gets too close to her, what happens? She has this fear of abandonment that they're going to leave. And because the psyche, as a defense mechanism, it's trying to protect that little girl within her to feel that again. So it doesn't want any situation that can remotely make her feel like that. So this subconscious mechanism is ruling her life, and it's creating her not to have any healthy relationships until she becomes aware of that feedback loop. And when it happens, she can shine her awareness to that feedback loop, because now she's the observer, not the program. Yeah. Because once you can raise your awareness and consciousness, you are the observer, you are the witness. You're witnessing the programming, because there's a difference between thought identification, identifying with that program, that feedback loop, to thought observation. Now you're observing it. And when you start to observe it, this starts to weaken. So now you're putting a brake on all the automatic programs that govern your life, and you're starting to raise your awareness. And this is the science of reprogramming your brain. This is how we reprogram through choice. Moments of trauma shouldn't dictate decades of your life, but it does. If we don't have the self-awareness to understand what's going on within us, within our emotional guidance system. And this is where I believe that we are all our own gurus. We are all our own psychologists. You just got to have the awareness of how the mind and body works. You don't have to go to a degree. Like I'm not an expert. I don't have any fancy letters next to my name. I just learned from my own personal development and what's worked for me in the past. And I'm still working through a lot of trauma and a lot of things that get triggered. But now the most important thing that I've learned is that when I'm inconvenienced, that is when I can grow more. So I'm thankful. I have to be thankful when I'm inconvenienced, because that's showing me and exposing me to a part where I need to be great, where I'm not great. So really, really good to be mindful of that, and implement that in your own journey. Now, I just want to touch up on the quantum field. So, going back into Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, there is a quantum field, that unified field that connects you, me, and every living organism in this reality. It is pure potential, pure probability. It is invisible, but it unifies everything. And at the core of reality, there is this energy that connects everything, right? And everyone. And it is intelligent. It is very, very, very intelligent, very sophisticated, uh, beyond our capacity to understand. So when we connect with this quantum field, we start to now channel source energy. It's like going from dial up to broadband, right? Connecting to the universal internet, the Akashic records, if you like. You're connecting to a higher bandwidth, and you got to change your radio dial, your frequency, your electromagnetic field. Thank you so much, Lynn. And thank you, everyone, for donating. And you got to change your EM field, your electromagnetic field. The brain produces electric energy, the heart produces magnetic energy. Together, it's a collective field, collective field called the EM field, electromagnetic field. It's no different from your aura, chi, prana, spirit, consciousness. These are all different concepts, but they all point at this animation. We all have it. So when we're entering the quantum field, you can't enter it as a person, because your person has a history. Your personality has a history. It has all these entanglements. It has trauma. You're identified with all these thoughts. You're dwelling on the past. You're projecting about future scenarios that haven't happened. There's all these things that are going on, and your energy is all over the place. And we want to create. You can't. It just doesn't work. Right. You're not as powerful. You're not as coherent in your projection to create a ripple effect. So then connecting with these probabilities and having a strong gravitational pull to these manifestations isn't as strong. You have to enter the quantum field as a nobody, in no time, nowhere, as no one. Okay, you got to go from a somebody to a nobody, from something to no thing, from somewhere to nowhere. And when we start to enter through just pure awareness, pure consciousness, this is where we start to change our vibration, and we start to be receptive to the higher energies and connect with the quantum field. And this is where creation happens. So this is an art. This is an art, and this is something you can train yourself over time. And it takes a high level of awareness to detach from the narrative, personal history, gender, name, role, because now you're going from, because for most of us, we're identified with the physical and mental planes of existence. We're so identified with the physical and mental planes, we believe that's all that there is, because we can't see the spiritual and energetic realms, domains that surround us. We can't see it. So if we can't see it, we don't really connect with it, because that's how we are. We're realists. This is what I see. This is what reality is. No, just because you can't see something, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. In the electromagnetic spectrum, we can only see certain spectral of light. We can't see infrared light. We can't see ultrasonic waves. We can't see television waves. We can't see radio waves, but they exist. These frequencies exist. We just don't have the right instruments. But we got a radio that's got a receiver. It can take radio waves, receive them, and then broadcast it into music, right? Because we've got the right instruments. We've got the right frequency. So when we start to change our frequency, the first thing we have to do is we have to transcend our ego mind. We have to transcend the analytical mind, and that means the death of the ego. And some egos aren't ready for that. Dying mentally is one of the biggest obstacles we have to face, because when we can die mentally, it's a dark night of the soul. But when you're so attached to the roles you play, and you're attached to this and you're attached to that, and you believe you're just this physical vessel living in physical reality, running around, you know, doing what you do, then transcending that, it becomes very difficult, because you're too plugged in, you're too identified, and that's okay. I'm not saying this is right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. You know, you do you. This is your journey, and there's no right or wrong. But for those of us who want to go deeper, and that have this motivation to really understand the mechanism of reality, to conquer, you know, whatever is in front of us, to truly understand what this marvelous creation is, so we can empower our being to be more creative. We understand that we have to transcend the analytical mind. We have to, that there has to be a death of the ego, and we have to then transcend that energy, channel that energy into this state of space. But it's not space, it's actually full of vibration and energy. So most of us spend a lot of our energy here thinking. We're thinking all the time, thinking, all these thoughts, thinking, that we don't really know how to channel it to a higher level. But when we be quiet and still enough, and we go within, and we start to flood our attention into the body, and we start to expand the energy in the body, we start to expand the consciousness, where does all this energy go? It's got to go somewhere else. It has to go somewhere else. It's not here anymore, taken by your ego through excessive thinking, dwelling on the past, romancing about the past, projecting about the future. It's not there anymore. It starts to go and channel somewhere else, and starts to activate a different energy center, right? It has to. It has to go somewhere, right? And once that happens, we start to now connect to the quantum realm. Our radio station, our radio dial starts to change. That's the first obstacle, is to get beyond the analytical mind, get beyond the ego mind, get beyond your thoughts, your narrative, your personal history, who you think you are as a mental construct. You have to get beyond that and realize that you are not. Realize that your projection of yourself needs a projector, right? The objective reality needs an object. Your body is objectified. You can see it, you can observe it. So therefore, it's objectified through the subject. There's a subject that is witnessing your body. You think you're your body. You look at your mirror and you think that's what you are. I think that's what I am. I'm identified to my body. If I don't have the awareness to go, okay, this is observed, this is witnessed, I cannot be what I observe. You cannot be what you observe. Starting to adopt and apply these concepts, which are just pointing you in a direction to connect with a higher state of awareness and consciousness, is now going to start really aiding you to transcend the analytical mind. And through some breath work, through meditation, through just spending time just breathing and feeling your body, you're going to be able to get better at it, better at it, better at it, better at it. And we start to raise our vibration, right? And this is what we do on this channel, and this is what I'm committed to, is getting beyond the analytical mind, getting beyond the thought process, and just finding that really deep state of presence and just feeling. But you watch how strong the gravitational pull is from the mind. It's so strong. It's so seductive, because the momentum we've created through decades of thinking, we've become masters of thinking. This is what we're so good at it. So when we try and stop that, we can't really stop it, because the brain is an instrument designed to process information. But what we can do is channel our attention into the body. There's still this strong gravitational pull, and this is where your meditation starts. And you have to sit and stay, and you get better at it, and you get better at it, and you get better at it, and get better at it. But don't just wait. And I said this last week, don't just wait till your meditation practice, because that's only 20 minutes, half an hour a day, 2 hours. Do it when you're driving. Like, just feel your body. Next time you're watching TV, just turn it off for 20 minutes and just feel your body. Next time you're waiting for someone, feel your hands, because that's a doorway into a deeper dimension, and you'll become better at it. 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 Just feel it. Feel more. Feel more, but don't feel through past emotional patterns, okay? Because that's counterproductive to what I'm saying. Feel through intuition. Feel through intuition. And if anything, be excited about a future. Be excited about tomorrow. Channel your energy into tomorrow, and just adopt that feeling of excitement. And ask yourself, to the observer, give me a sign that leaves no doubt in my mind that has come from you. To the observer, give me a sign today that leaves no doubt in my mind that has come from you, and start to strengthen that part of your brain, connecting to a higher self and receiving these signs from the universe, because the universe will give you signs. You do that too, Lisa? Yeah, I learned that from What the Bleep, when Dr. Joe Dispenza said that before he was Dr. Joe Dispenza. It's very powerful. To the observer, give me a sign today that leaves no doubt it has come from you. And the universe will start giving you these signs. And I had one the other day. It was just mind blowing. I just had to sit there and just meditate on it and just say thank you for this sign. And I just started thanking my spirits, and it just triggered a really nice moment, a portal into the spiritual realm, and I was just thanking the powers above. And the more I thank the powers above and strengthen my relationship with the spiritual realm, the stronger my messages are, right? Whatever that is, my higher self in this quantum reality, my future self, I don't know what it is. It's beyond my understanding, right? But there is this unseen force that you can strengthen. And once you start strengthening it, it will start to communicate to you through symbols and through signs. I promise you, it is happening in my life. I'm not, and I know some of you guys are feeling this as well. So strengthen that. And even if you're by yourself, you're not ever truly by yourself. Like, really, I talk to myself all the time, because I know that on some level, like, my words are going out into the spiritual realm, and I try and uplift my being. I try and uplift my space, right? Um, and I've always done that. So whatever I do, I know that I always do it as if I'm being not judged for it, but if someone is witnessing that, going, well, you didn't really have to do that, because now you've kind of created all this toxic energy. So always be mindful that even though no one's around, there's always this space and energy around. Um, there's a couple more stuff that I'll finish off with this. The power of intention. Now, I know some of you guys are fans of Lynn McTaggart and have read The Power of Eight, and I'll finish it with this today. There's so many things I want to get through, but I might have to continue this conversation next week if you guys like. So the Power of Eight are these healing circles, and there's a great book of it. So I don't know why, but Lynn McTaggart, she teaches it when there's 8 people in a healing circle and one person is in the middle, and everyone is giving that person healing energy. It seems to have this profound effect. And this book is amazing. And there's healing circles all over the world, The Power of Eight. And there was this one story, Lynn was saying that this lady that was in the circle, not in the middle, but she was giving all this energy and healing energy to the person that needed it the most in her healing circle, came up to Lynn and said, you know what, Lynn, ever since I've been giving good energy, good vibration, good intention to this person, my life started to change. She goes, I've just been given this amazing career that I didn't have a job, and now I've just been offered this amazing career. My daughter started speaking to me again after years of not speaking to me, and this happened. I'm just paraphrasing, but so many amazing things started happening to her, all because she was giving good vibration to someone else. So there seems to be this effect that when you're genuinely happy for other people and you're not competing and you're not like going, oh my God, I want to do that, and not scrolling through social media, being envious of these lifestyles and facades that people pull up or whatever it is, if you can just be genuinely happy for others, that does something special. I don't know what it is. I can't truly explain it, but it does something special where that energy starts to come back to you. Right? Just being happy for others. And I think all in all, that's an amazing quality to have when you're genuinely happy for others. And I think that's what is needed in this life more than anything. Right? So next time you find yourself being a little bit envious or feeling a little bit lack, and someone's having this, he's got all this amazing life and you don't, or whatever it is, be happy for him. Go, oh my God, well done. And I hope just try. And at the start, it may be an effort, but that's okay, because through effort, we start to train our mind and our body to move into that pattern, and then we can start being more authentic. Just like being compassionate, you may not be a compassionate person, but you start being compassionate, and you put in an effort to become more compassionate, even though you don't want to, and you keep doing it. One day you're just compassionate. this is because you've trained yourself to be compassionate for the law of repetition. So being happy for others and sending out that good vibes to others, you're actually getting that back. It works, and I believe in it. And maybe that's my placebo, but whether it's my placebo or not, it's still a beautiful thing to give good energy to other people, and always be happy for others and not compare your life to others, because we are all on our unique journey. And I don't define happiness or success through materialism. I think that's what our society promotes, and I think that couldn't be far. That couldn't be so far from the truth. I see happiness and success where someone has nothing, but they have an abundance of energy to share. You know, and I think that, to me, if anything, I'll be envious of that, because they're like, oh my god, this person's always got this good vibration. They're always sharing this good energy, and it's authentic, and people are great. So to me, that's successful because you've mastered your energy. And there's a Tibetan proverb that goes, "A true miracle isn't a rocket in the sky. A true miracle is when someone liberates a negative emotion." Because that is hard to do, right? So there are different definitions of success, but be happy for others, because that's the right thing to do, and that's what it's about. That's it, guys. That's all I've got time for today. Thank you so much for everyone that tuned in. Thank you for everyone for sharing your insight. And hope you guys enjoyed this chat. Hopefully, if you missed the conversation, it is recorded, and we will be posting it up tomorrow evening, so you can catch it. I think it was a really, really powerful session. Thanks, Achu, man. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Look, it's been an hour and 10 minutes, and it's felt like 5 minutes. So I really thank you guys for giving me the platform to express what, having these conversations. Growing up, I really craved these conversations because they're very stimulating. And I was going through this, transition, and I couldn't talk to people about these things because they just thought I was crazy, or they didn't have the right mindset to really process what I was saying. So, I kept a lot of this inside myself, just kept a lot of it inside, because you guys know it's very hard to find within our own networks people that really support our growth, and we can talk on this level. And that's why we've got this amazing app, because we can connect with people globally that ultimately becomes our tribe and our community that are on the same wavelength. So I'm very honored and very grateful to be able to finally express my truth and really share it with you guys. And thank you for giving me the good vibes and attention to share that. So, and again, half the time when I express, I don't even know what I'm saying, to be honest. If I had to think about what I was saying, I don't think I'd be able to express. It's almost like I'm just a conduit, for energy to just move through me, and I do my best to articulate what I'm feeling at that moment. But there isn't any. If I try to think about it, I don't think I'd be able to explain it. And sometimes people tell me to explain things again. I'm like, I can't. I really can't, because I don't know how to explain that again. It just kind of came through me. Um, Thank you, Cassie, and thank you, everyone. I'll just go back to some comments, because I know some people took some time to write comments. Sam says, "Wow, I've been so stressed in starting my own business, and I have been hard on myself for not working and making contact. I think it was because I was trying to force myself to work when there is an anxious energy around me, instead of just flowing with the universe in order to create." Yeah, that's a good one, Sam. We often have these expectations, and it's like, oh, things aren't going the way I want them to go, and why am I making all these sales? Why am I making all this money? And why am I getting all these customers? And sometimes, again, we're focusing on the lack. And I'm really glad that you're able to shift today that energy, because if you truly love what you do and you truly want to be successful, just work on being a good person, and working and just trusting the process. And it doesn't matter whether you win or fail, because everything is a stepping stone to true success. As long as you can, grow from it, and as long as you can act from a place of love, then I think these higher forces will always guide you in the right direction, right? Act from a place of love. Thank you so much, Susan. Um, Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Adelaide. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Sunny. And thank you to everyone. Thank you, Justine. Thank you. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Lisa. That's right, Jill. Amazing message. And that's it. So Thursdays or this week, I'm still. I won't be doing any more lives this week because I'm in between places at the moment, and it's just crazy trying to organize all the logistics. But I'll be back next week, guys, and we'll continue our Muji book. We're on chapter 6 or 7 of this amazing book. For those who want to join, and again, it's always recorded. So next week we'll be back on track. Stay blessed, everyone. Stay blessed and enjoy the moment. Don't miss out on the magic in the moment. And remember, just today I was doing a meditation before I leave. I was doing a meditation, and the last message that came to me was in this meditation was this ancient verb where this angel was speaking to the higher power, and the angel wasn't ready to move on. The angel was like, oh, if I could go back one more time, I would be more grateful. I'd immerse myself in the moment because there were so many moments I could have been more present, and it really wanted another chance. And then within a blink of the eye, the angel was back into its body. In that moment, it transcended and given another chance to really be grateful for everything and really show up as the best version of yourself to every conversation, to every interaction, and really do your best to be at service of others. And the message is that we are that angel. We have been given this life, and don't lose it because you're too consumed by negative emotions or these primitive emotions, because you don't want to have that conversation with the higher power. You want to be here now, present enough where you don't hesitate to express your truth and your authenticity and unapologetically be yourself. Who cares what other people think? This is your playground. This is your life. This is your journey. You don't want to have any regrets. Do not have any regrets. So life is a gift. The way you live your life is a gift back. Now is the time. So do everything and have no regrets, because it's a very powerful proverb, and you don't want to look back and think, I could have done that, I could have been more present, I should have done. Don't do that. Break the boundaries of your emotions and just don't worry what happens next. Just do it and express your truth. Thank you so much, guys. If you want to join us, thank you, Marielle. You're an absolute angel as well. Thank you for that beautiful message. If you want to be up to date with all our lives, guys, join the channel or join our group to connect with some beautiful, beautiful members that support each other's growth and self-development. And until next time, guys, Oscar from StressFit, stay blessed, and I will chat to you guys soon. Bye-bye for now.